Welcome back to the channel. Have you ever heard of an ancient banned book that was completely erased from mainstream Bibles, yet contains the most terrifying secrets about fallen angels, cannibalistic giants, and the end of the world? Today we are diving deep into the Book of Enoch, a work often described as the ultimate piece of spin-off literature in religious history. Where did this text come from? Why was it once highly revered only to be later buried and forgotten? To understand the Book of Enoch, we first have to look back at the book of Genesis in the Hebrew Bible. There we find two incredibly brief and cryptic passages that ignited the imagination of ancient writers. The first is the figure of Enoch himself. Amidst a long dry genealogy, the text suddenly says, Enoch walked faithfully with God. Then he was no more, because God took him away. There is absolutely no explanation as to where he went or how. The second passage is an odd story in Genesis chapter 6. It states that before the great flood, the sons of God came down to earth, had relations with the daughters of humans, and fathered a race of giants called the Nephilim, described as the mighty men of old. These vague biblical snippets left early Jews and Christians wanting more. They wanted answers. And that is exactly why the book of Enoch was written, to expand those few verses into a massive epic narrative. When scholars refer to the book of Enoch, they are usually talking about First Enoch. Historically, there are also second and third books of Enoch, but First Enoch is the most prominent. However, calling it a single book is a bit of a misnomer. It is actually a compilation of 5 distinct texts stitched together over centuries. The oldest sections date all the way back to the 4th or 3rd century BCE. The journey of this text is nothing short of miraculous. It was likely written originally in Aramaic, translated into Greek, and finally into Ge'ez, an ancient Ethiopic language. The most complete manuscripts we have today belong to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, dating to the 15th and 16th centuries. But the ultimate validation came in the 20th century, when archaeologists discovered fragments of Enoch in Aramaic among the Dead Sea Scrolls at Qumran. This proved beyond a doubt that these stories were already compiled and circulating long before the Common Era. The most famous and cinematic part of the text is the Book of the Watchers. Here the vague sons of God from Genesis are identified as a society of fallen angels called the Watchers, led by their chief, Shemi-Hazza. These angels didn't just satisfy their lust with human women, they altered the course of humanity. Their offspring, the giant Nephilim, began devouring human crops, then slaughtering and eating humanity itself, even drinking the blood of animals. It reads like a modern horror film. Furthermore, the Watchers corrupted humanity by teaching them forbidden celestial arts. The fallen angel Asael taught men how to forge weapons of war. Others taught women sorcery, cosmetics, astrology, and dark magic. As the earth cried out from the bloodshed, God dispatched his 4 chief archangels. He commanded Gabriel to destroy the giants, and Michael to bind Shemi-Hazza and his rebellious followers, casting them into the dark abyss of the underworld to await final judgment. In this grand epic, Enoch is sent by God as a prophet to deliver this chilling verdict to the fallen angels. Beyond the mythology, Enoch is one of the oldest examples of Jewish apocalyptic literature. In fact, many core theological concepts that we associate with mainstream Christianity today appeared in Enoch first. First is the figure of the Son of Man. Enoch witnesses a vision of a Messiah-like figure who will be a light to the nations and a staff for the righteous. Fascinatingly, in chapter 71, Enoch himself is named as this Son of Man. Second is the concept of a fiery hell. In the oldest texts of the Hebrew Bible, the afterlife is a shadowy place called Sheol, with no eternal torment. But Enoch explicitly describes a burning chasm, an inescapable prison of fire reserved for rebellious angels and the wicked. Finally, it introduces the structured concept of the final judgment, the resurrection of the dead, and the complete renewal of a corrupted world. Despite its immense popularity and antiquity, the Book of Enoch suffered a turbulent fate. Mainstream Rabbinic Judaism eventually rejected it completely. They dismissed the idea that angels could physically mate with humans, and they were uncomfortable with Enoch being elevated to a divine status, such as the angel Metatron in later mystical texts. Early Christians initially treated Enoch as scripture. The New Testament book of Jude directly quotes 1st Enoch, and its theology deeply influenced the Gospels in the book of Revelation. Yet by the 4th century, powerful church fathers like Augustine and Jerome rejected it as apocrypha, and it was systematically excluded from the biblical canon. It vanished from the Western world for centuries, surviving in only one place, Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church preserved it as part of their 81-book biblical canon, where it remains Holy Scripture to this day. Traces of Enoch also live on in Islam, where he is commonly identified as the prophet Idris, who was similarly raised by God to a sublime station in the heavens. From just a few ambiguous lines in Genesis, an epic masterpiece was born, one that laid the groundwork for how billions of people view angels, hell, and the end times. Whether viewed as forbidden truth or ancient fantasy, the Book of Enoch remains a priceless window into the spiritual imagination of the ancient world. What do you think about the story of the Watchers and the Nephilim? Do you think this book was removed because its secrets were too controversial for the mainstream church? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next historical mystery. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.